Hello everybody, J-Rob, John, you might recognize me from the message board. Met a few of you already, so I guess I'm going to show you my preferred attachment method for a full cap. First thing I do, I usually attach from the back to the front because for me, it's a lot easier to get the unit lined up so it kind of falls into place. So I start with the back with a strip of tape on the back, and I'll tack it down, and then I bring it up and I'll pull it over and just kind of work it in. And like I was telling the guys on the way over here, I'm getting really short on hair, so this unit's about 7 months old. I use it consistently for about 5 months, so it's kind of on its last legs, and it doesn't really look great until it gets styled up, and I use the sealer in it so you can kind of see that it has a little bit of it almost looks like it has styling product in it now, but once I get a little bit of conditioner or water on it, it'll settle down. It looks pretty good, but I guess we can go right into it. My favorite tape is blue liner. I can't go beyond a week for an attachment, so I don't really have a problem with the mess when it breaks down, like a lot of people do. So it especially in the back, in the nape area, it gives the best hold because I bring it down all the way onto my neck, and with some of the other tapes, it tends to lift. So this stuff, once it breaks down, it really starts to get gooey, and it'll hold on to the skin, and I don't really tend to have too much lifting in that area. Excellent. That'll work. Okay, so the first thing I do, I'll pin it to the top of the head just so I can get a little bit of a stretch on this, and I'll come across and I'll roughly measure. And usually what I do is I cut a little bit more than really what I need. And next step, I take a white glue. This is some old stuff that I've had laying around for a while, but I use it to kill the shine on the blue liner tape. So I just usually rub like one coat. Give it a few minutes to dry, and then I'll come across with a second coat and really smear it in. And this is one of those things that it might be overkill, even with a fairly light density like this is, but I just like to do it just in case. So
your 1 week bond is a preference, right?
I was only getting 4 days until I started attaching. Some of you might have seen on my blog where I'll use more tape now. I'll do a strip of tape across the top, across the back, and then a couple going up here. So I have not a full head bond, but pretty close. And that's allowed me to go to a week. But before that, when I would just do a perimeter attachment, the lace would slide around on my head and I'd get irritation, and I couldn't do it. So luckily now I can go about 6 to 7 days since it's not moving around, and I take it off. I don't have any irritation, but it was pretty bad before, so luckily I solved that issue.
When you use that white adhesive and you said you just sort of smear some, you don't use it's not like they put a whole line of it if they were squeezing it out. You just put a little on your finger and smear it over just to...
Yeah, and you can use just about any kind of a white glue on it. It's just it just knocks that shine off of the blue liner tape, and you don't have to let it dry for very long. But usually on the second coat, then when I come over it, it'll start to get a pretty good matte finish on it. I probably put a little too much. I'm used to having a little bit warmer room, which this is good since it's not warm because I'm not going to sweat, but it might slow the glue drying down a little bit.
You wipe it on your pants then?
Yes, that is exactly what I do. So I'm not the only one? Yeah, I'll probably have to let this dry, but you can see how it's not as shiny as it was before. But we'll probably have to let that dry for a minute. Did you have any other questions while this is drying? Anybody?
So when you bond to your skin then, you just use that white adhesive on the part of the tape that's going against the base of the system?
Right.
Not on your skin, you just use the regular tape on your skin?
Well, next what I'm going to do, once I get this on, I'll attach to the back, and then I will mark the hairline, the temples, and then I'll flip it back over, and it looks kind of funny because it looks like somebody scalped me or whatever, but I'll pull it back over, and then I'll put the pieces of tape wherever I'm going to apply, and I'll come across the temples and the hairline and do my glue, and then I'll hit each one of those with a coat or two of the white glue as well. So, wasn't that something about that in the other video?
Yeah.
I thought Bill would have that fixed by now. Okay, I mean, you know, if this doesn't work, I might just pull it off at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter. But and what I'll usually do, since I cut this a little bit longer, I'll just cut it in half, and I'll have one side. It'll make it a little bit easier because some of my units have a little bit more curve than others. Some I can run it straight across, and I don't have to worry about it. But I think this one's got a little bit more curve. So then all I have to do is get a rough idea of the angle that I have the taper and just kind of eye it. Take that off. And I usually place the tape just a tiny, tiny bit outside of the edge of the lace. And that kind of provides a transition where it's not directly up against the lace, because especially with the thicker lace in the back, you can end up with, you know, a hard edge. So it kind of helps to make that transition, and also a little bit of hair sticking to it doesn't hurt as well, because a lot of these units that I've gotten have had pretty big knots at the back, and the hair tends to want to kind of clump together and fork out, and it doesn't look very good. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to grab something real quick. And I usually use the edge of a comb to tack the tape down, or scissors, it doesn't really matter.
Use a T-pin to get it started with, John?
Yeah, if I have any problems with it, because sometimes it likes to stick to the, depending on the roll of tape or the type of tape, but I'll just stick the T-pin. I think I put a picture of that up on the blog a little while back, how I just tack the corner of the tape down with a T-pin if I feel that liner wants to stick to it. And once this side is down, then I'll go to the other side and do the exact same thing. And sometimes, if I don't get it long enough, I end up with a little gap, but I throw a little piece of tape in between. Looks like I got this one right on.
You overlap it normally with?
Yeah, I don't think it really doesn't make much difference. If I need to, I overlap it. If not, then. But what you don't want to have at the back is a place where there's no tape. That's what you want to avoid, because then you'll have a little little area that wants to stick up there. And I usually get it started and just kind of fold it back over on itself so it doesn't stick to me when I'm working with it. But that's how I prep the back. And I usually give my scalp a spray of alcohol, lace release. And
Right.
yeah, this unit's getting worn out pretty bad because of the fine lace on the sides. It really tends to fray up in these areas here. And believe it or not, everyone's probably cold, but I'm starting to sweat. Yeah, this
That's alcohol.
yeah. This might not be a usable attachment, but now you see I got everything lined up in place. Then I can peel the tape. And I can just kind of drop it and pull and stretch and just kind of move it out to the edges, and then everything falls into place. Yeah, I grabbed the wrong unit.
Now, does it make a difference if you're looking down or putting your head up when you press it down? Does it make a difference?
Where I attach, not really.
Oh, okay.
I'm usually up a little bit more. I'm having to kind of go down with this, but
You're low enough down on that neck
So it
muscle
doesn't-
that
Yeah.
it doesn't draw up.
Yeah.
right, yeah, I started out attaching right at the base of the skull, and it just having a round head, it looks better on me to bring it down, so I started doing my attachments a little bit lower, and it seems to work. So
So you go below where your natural hairline is? Is it
well,
below where your natural hairline is?
I haven't had a natural hairline in the back for
Okay.
forever.
Well, like, as far as where your occipital bone is, you're more than 2 inches below your occipital bone.
Just below, probably an inch below or so.
Okay.
So, yeah, usually what I do is I put the edge of the tape kind of right the top of it at
Okay.
the base of the skull. And hopefully this will hold on while I do the rest of my stuff.
Do you usually use scalp prep, or do you just use the alcohol?
Just straight, yeah. Alcohol or lace release. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and get this prepped. And usually what I'll do is, not too scientific about this, but I want to cover a pretty good sized area. So I'll measure this, and I will cut 2 of these that are about the same size. If I can manage to do this without it sticking to everything. And then I'll cut 2 smaller strips, just maybe about 3 to 4 inches. And nothing too scientific about this, but usually what I'll do is I'll keep it somewhere up towards the top of the head, not getting into the crown area just because, you know, I don't want any tape seen in that area, but usually keep it about somewhere in here and line up the middle and just bring it down. And this allows me more flexibility when I'm attaching up in the front that once it hits this tape, then it stops, and I can just kind of, hold it back and kind of work it like that. And I'll do a piece in the back, the same kind of thing. But the idea is to kind of get good coverage for all of this area, because this is the area where I have problems getting the irritation with the thicker laces.
They're both about the same length, John, both those strips are pretty
Yeah,
much the same.
yeah, yeah.
The irritation is from your regrowth, do you think?
No, it's from the lace.
The lace itself.
Yeah.
I think so. Is that Hollywood or New York lace, John? 64, well, that terminology you may not use.
This
Swiss or,
this would be the French, and the Swiss I have in the front that
okay.
just, this particular Swiss was really, really fragile.
Did you ever try going with all the softer lace? Over the
No.
entire unit?
No. What I was tempted to do, though, was to order a unit with a lighter lace for the entire base, with the thicker lace for the perimeter, because it disappears on me just fine. I don't have a problem with it. That way I get the comfort factor of a lighter lace for the whole cap, but then I get the durability on the outside edge. Okay, this is the part where I'll probably start to sweat, but let's try this. Once the hair goes on, it gets a little warm, but just pressure on the tape. Make sure it's on there. I wish I would have grabbed the other unit. This one doesn't look the best, but we'll make do. And then I take a makeup pencil and I'll start
There's special sound effects.
That's just like an eyeliner that you use to, like an eyebrow.
eye pencil. I didn't know what it was. It was blue and it looked like it would work, so I bought it. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Is this going to be edited before it goes on the internet? Now that I have the perimeter marked, I usually just mark it in the places, kind of key areas. I don't go in a specific pattern, but on an outside or an inside curve, couple of marks for an inside curve, and then in the temple point area I'll put one dot and then one. So it just gives me a rough outline to follow. But this is where we're going to see if the tape is sticking or not sticking. Not sticking. I sweat terribly. And if I sweat at all during my attachment, sure. I wish I had this every time.
Have you ever tried the method that I've seen on the message board before, where they have like an antiperspirant type thing that they put on their scalp first?
I've done that a couple times, and it probably does give a little bit of extra time for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now that that is done, I'll come across and do a coat of glue on each of the strips of tape.
I'm impressed. You're doing that
was good. It's like how it would like 3 years and then like. I think that's the new.
And you do that mainly to get rid of the shine?
Yeah.
Does it really help your whole time?
I don't think it really helps the whole time, but I just do it as a precaution to get rid of the shine because I use styling products a lot. So sometimes it'll, you know, with a wax, it'll have a thinner look and you'll be able to see through. But it's just an added precaution. And I try not to do it, I don't put any tape, you know, right in the crown area.
Why is that, John?
Just to avoid being able to see it since there's a break in the hair.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't know if you can see how the difference in the shine. Once the hair is on, the shine's gone. But it only takes a minute extra to do this. And it allows you to use the blue liner tape with a lighter density.
And if you do overlap your little on your scalp, it's no big deal, right?
No, not at all. I don't want 7 years of bad luck, so I'm going to move that mirror back. And usually what I'll do is I can get an idea of where it starts back here. And I don't worry too much about the glue line above the ear. I'll just bring it down so that I make sure that the base will hit it. And I use thin coats of glue, but I try not to go too thin because if I don't get enough on, I don't get a very good attachment at all.
So you just use the adhesive on the sides and the front?
Right. And I made my marks, you know, maybe 1/8 of an inch in front.
Yeah, that's really important because if they're not, when you try to remove them, you get back into the adhesive.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to come around this side.
I am impressed with how well you put that on there.
The mirrors,
Yeah.
that's a couple years.
How long does it take you total attachment time, if you weren't explaining it to us and everything?
Normally, probably, I'm going to guess maybe about 30 minutes. Usually if I try to rush, a lot of times I'll have problems.
You're not normally doing it for an audience and answer a bunch of questions.
Right.
Have you ever tried, like, applying the tape to the base itself and putting it up on, you know, applying it rather than putting the tape on your scalp?
I've experimented a little with it, but with the full cap, there are so many angles to it, it makes it kind of difficult.
Right.
Yeah, because this way, you know, I can kind of maneuver it around, and if I need to spray with a little alcohol and kind of get it where I need it, and this stuff dries pretty fast, so I'll just follow it with another coat. I put a little bit of extra glue right in here in the front just to give a little extra hold because there's no attachment right in the middle there. Yeah, 2 coats with this glue.
What kind of glue is that?
This is the old Cool Piece cream glue that they don't make anymore. Okay, and then I just have to let that dry a little bit. While that's drying, I will remove my makeup marks. Pretty well dry. And next, I kind of make sure that it's tight across the back and kind of retack it in this area. Bringing it up. And then once I get to where the tape is, I'll kind of bring my hand around the back and push it into place so I don't get too many wrinkles. And once I get to the top of the head, I can just kind of roll it up, and then I can get to this point and I have a little bit more flexibility to work in the important areas. So usually what I'll do is I'll spray the temple areas with a little alcohol, come down with this, get it lined up pretty good. That gives me a little flexibility on the sides. And this unit was actually made to use sideburns with, and I had to shave them for my Halloween costume, so because that was very important. But yeah. Not the best unit, not the best attachment, but at least it gives you an idea. And then I can come in and I can tack it down. And if I have to, I can come in and I can do a little touch up, but I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. Yeah, I didn't bring any styling products, so it's not gonna. That's a good point. But yeah, until it really gets styled, you know, because you still have a lot of problems. These units have had problems with the temples, so you know I can combat that when I use a wax. And I'm sure you've probably seen some of the pictures and stuff. You know, I get the hair to lay in the directions that I want it to lay, and you know it's kind of unruly up in this area. Hopefully, we'll be able to work to get some of these issues resolved. If I have any areas like since this is getting old, and since the like I said, it was made to work with sideburns, what I'll do if I have problems in those areas is I'll take a little bit of concealer and I can kind of fill in around the ears.
In a nutshell, John, what's your procedure then for removal and cleanup?
Removal and cleanup, headband, soak it with a couple of soaks of alcohol in the glue areas only, and I'll just grab, once it's loosened up after 10 or so minutes, the alcohol and the glued areas, then I'll take and I'll start to lift the tape and all in the back. And you'll see this on the DVD. This is, I show that method, but I'll peel the tape up and take the tape off with it. Just because I have tape in so many areas, it's hard to get the alcohol in the right place. So I'll take it off. Plus, it's easier. It doesn't leave as much residue on the skin. And then I'll just soak it from the underside with my syringe with a little bit of alcohol, and then I can peel the tape off. But that's about it. Anybody have any more questions?
Do you ever get any residue on the lace after you remove it?
Yes, a ton, a lot. Especially my body chemistry breaks down adhesives fast, and it's a lot of it stays on the lace. Especially, a lot of people say they don't have a problem once they soak it with alcohol. They can peel it right off, and all the adhesive stays on their head. But for me, most of it comes off with the lace. So I use a little bit of pure or adhesive remover, and I spray with just a misting spray bottle. I don't use like a regular, like a jet kind of spray bottle, just a very fine mist over the whole thing. I'll do a mirror slide to get the bulk of it off, and you'll still feel tackiness to it. And then I take a pallet wrap, just the standard stuff that they wrap, the stretch wrap pallets with, and take a ball of that. I turn it upside down on the styrofoam head and just wipe it across, and it pulls all that up. It works pretty good.
That's even after the adhesive remover. The
Mm-hmm.
adhesive remover doesn't make it slip?
No, because I don't put too much on, just enough to loosen the adhesive
From the hair side or from the base side?
from the base side. And the mirror slide pulls most of it off, but it's just got that extra little bit of tacky, and I'll let it sit for maybe 30 minutes sometimes, and it'll harden back up a little bit, and then I just a loose ball, and you'll see that on the DVD also, just a loose ball, and I just wipe it across, and it really does a good job. I don't have to use any kind of fabric cleaning guns or water pick or anything to get the gunk out of the lace. Even after 5 or 6 months of wearing it, it doesn't build up if I keep up that routine. It works pretty good.
And it's pallet wrap as opposed to plastic wrap.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The regular plastic wrap just seems maybe a little bit too slick. The pallet wrap has more almost an adhesive quality to itself. Yeah. So then when you rub that across, it really picks the fine little bit out of it. Yeah, it works pretty well. Don't ask me how I stumbled upon that, but trying different things, I guess.